Hey, good morning. I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving week. I'm the housing nerd. This is a deep dive into home prices. Are home prices crashing in your city? We're going to find out today. So, here's what you need to do: drop your city in the comments below, and I'm going to review and I'm going to analyze home prices in your city. So, all you got to do is drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching today. I've got a ton of data to go through. So I've got basically, we're going to look at individual metro areas when it comes to home prices. We're going to look at 1 month change in home prices. We're going to look at 1 year change in home prices. We're going to look at how far prices have moved since the peak in 2022. We're also going to look at inventory of homes for sale in the metros we analyze. So we can look at inventory and then look at where home prices have gone. And that'll hopefully give you some type of, understanding of where home prices may go in the coming months. So nationally, and I'm going to state two different stats here, one from Zillow, one from Redfin. So Zillow has the US right now up 2.4% year over year in home prices. 2.4% up nationally year over year. Redfin, on the other hand, has us up 6%. Now, typically on Thursdays, I do a Redfin deep dive, but tomorrow's Thanksgiving, so my family's not going to let me do that on Thanksgiving. And I just checked Redfin's website, and they don't have updated information yet. So I'll probably get to a Redfin update maybe over the weekend at some point. But for today, we're going to use mostly Zillow information for home prices, and we're going to use Realtor.com information for inventory. Now, all the maps I'm going to show you today are all courtesy of Resiclub Analytics. If you don't know who Resiclub is, you should. I would check them out, resiclubanalytics.com. They are the authority in real estate data. And actually what they do is they take free data that's available to you and me, but they put it together in a way that's easy to understand. That's what we're going to look at today. So drop your city in the comments below and let's get started. I have on my list already from people who have requested it. I've got a lot of Ohio. So I've got Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland. I even have some smaller markets in Ohio I'm going to go over. I've got Oregon. I've got Charlotte, North Carolina. I've got Connecticut. And I've got Los Angeles. That's what I have on the list today. So add to that list. We're going to go as long as we need to in order to help you understand what's happening with home prices in your city. So let's get going. All right. So what we're looking at right now is the 1 month change in metro level home prices between September 2024 and October of 2024. So we've got a 1 month change. That's what we're looking at right now. And what I'm going to do is look at each metro, go over what's happening month over month. Then I'm going to look at that same metro for 1 year, and then that same metro since peak, and then the inventory. That's how this is going to work. So lots of data, lots of data. Let me just hide this. Bear with me. Sorry. All right. So let's start in Ohio. So we're going to look at the month over month increase or decrease in home prices. So Columbus, Ohio, you can see right here, we've got a month over month change. So 1 month in Columbus metro area, home prices dropped 0.4%, according to Zillow data, 0.4%. And they've actually gone up since 2022, 6%. Now, important to note, some of these areas actually saw the peak in 2023 or 2024. But the way that Resiclub does this is they just look at 2022 because a lot of U.S. cities hit their housing peak or the price peak during that period of time. So the shift since 2022 in Columbus, 6%. 1 year change, 3.3%. 2-year change, 8.1%. 3-year change, 21%. 4-year change, 35%. And 5-year change, 50%. Yikes. So when we look at this, you can easily see that home prices in 5 years in Columbus have gone up 50%. Yeah, 50%. That's absolutely insane, right? And then 4-year change, 35%. 1-year change, we've only gone up 3.3, and the peak 6%. So when you look, then you can see active. Sorry, guys, had the wrong screen up. Month over month, we had a 0.4% change in Columbus. We had shifts since the 2022 peak, 6%. I had the wrong screen up on my sharing. Sorry about that. 1 year change, 3.3%. 2-year change, 8%. 3-year change, 21%. 4-year change, 35%. 5-year change, 50%. And you can see the active inventory. Look at the active inventory, 3,604. Now, what I can do then is I'm going to go to this tab, and we're going to look at what inventory has done in Columbus. Now, look at this inventory in Columbus. So my 1 year shift in inventory, down 20% in those 5 years. And remember, home prices for Columbus are up 50% in those 4 years. So we're down 20% in inventory. We're up 50% in home prices, 50%. So what I'm trying to do today is show you the correlation between inventory and home prices, because there's a clear correlation. Where home prices are or have exploded, inventory is in the tank. It just is what it is. But I want you to pay attention, though, also to the month over month change in home prices, because Columbus actually dropped month over month. So let's go back to the active inventory and see what we see for Columbus. So inventory in October of 2024, 3,604. Last year, we had 2,706 active homes for sale. So nearly 1,000 more units for sale. And home prices, the growth of home prices is slowing because we're building more inventory. And I suspect we're going to see this continually as we go through these different cities. So that's Columbus. All right, now let's do, let's do Cleveland. All right, so Cleveland, similar to Columbus, month over month change in home prices down 0.3%. Since the peak, Cleveland is up 9.6%. Look at the 5-year change in home prices, 47% increase in home prices in the last 5 years. 47%. Man, it's just no matter how many times I look at that number, I'm like, man, 47% increase in home prices. That's nuts, right? Let's find out what happened to inventory. Inventory in Cleveland. What happened in Cleveland, Believeland in inventory? Let's zoom in a little more here. In Cleveland, shift between October 2019 and 2024, 50%. In other words, in Columbus, the 5-year shift in inventory was 19%. So we're down 19% in Columbus with inventory, but in Cleveland, they're down 50% still. They've made basically no headway. In fact, if you look at Cleveland for inventory, you can see that back in 2016, there were 8,300 homes for sale in October. Now there's 3,200 homes for sale. So they're really not making any headway at all with inventory in Cleveland. Maybe because of investors. I don't know, but it's not, that's not a great situation if you are in Cleveland with inventory. So Let's go back to home prices and see what they're doing again in Cleveland. Yeah. 1 year change 5.7%, 2 year 11%, 3 year 22%, 4 year change 35%, and 5 year change 47%. So they didn't grow as much as Columbus did with home prices, but they have a lot less inventory compared to pre-pandemic when you look at Columbus versus Cleveland. So Cleveland, the inventory is certainly suffering. And you know, one of the things I think you'll find out as we go through this exercise today is that month over month change in the fall historically seems to go down as far as prices. Um, but overall, Cleveland continues to go up in home prices and inventory is still horrible. Uh, it's just there's just doesn't look like there's anything for sale. I'd imagine anything for sale that sits on the market a while is either destroyed or perhaps it's inventory people don't want or it's really expensive. All right, so that's Cleveland. Let's do Cincinnati next. Whoops. Cincinnati. Month over month change in Cincinnati, 0.4%. Shift since the peak, 7% growth. So again, just like Columbus and Cleveland, look at that month over month change. All three cities in Ohio are down when you compare when you compare September to October of this year. Everybody has been down in Ohio so far. The shift since the peak, 7% up. Look at the 5 year change, 48%. Similar story to Columbus and Cleveland regarding how much home prices have grown. Now let's look at inventory, find out what's going on there. In Cincinnati, look at the shift of inventory. We're still down 33% in Cincinnati with inventory, homes for sale, compared to pre-pandemic. Now, what's interesting is Columbus, go back and look at Columbus real quick, down 19%. So Columbus is down 19% with inventory, but Cleveland and Cincinnati are down much more than that when it comes to inventory. So Columbus has added a lot more houses to the housing supply, I guess, either through new builds or people actively selling their houses, much more so than what you've seen in Cincinnati and Cleveland. And you look at the last 5 years. So I thought that was pretty telling. Again, inventory matters. It just matters. It's just the way it is. It's how it is. All right. So let's go back and look at another Ohio city. Look at a couple more here. Let's do Zanesville, the big burb of Zanesville. Month over month change 0.1%. They're actually up. Shift since the peak 11.6%. Shift since the peak 11%. They're up 11% since 2022. 1 year change 6.3%. 5 year change, are you ready? 54% in Zanesville, Ohio. 54%. I mean, that's just nuts, right? Completely nuts. Now, how are they doing in inventory? Down 24% in the last 5 years in inventory. So, they're kind of in the middle there when you think about the Ohio cities. We had Columbus only down 19% in the number of homes for sale in the last 5 years. Now you've got uh, Cleveland, Cincinnati in the 30s. And now you've got Zanesville at 24%. So anyway, that's how Lance presents its data. Again, fantastic way to present it. All right, let's zoom out here and let's go to another area. Let's do who I have on my list. I've got Oregon. Let's go all the way out to the West Coast and do Oregon. Sorry, just got to zoom out here. Oregon. All right, I got Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon. 0.3% month over month change. 0.3%. Shift since 2022 down 5.4%. So Oregon, Portland peaked at it peaked in 2022 and now they're down 5.4% since that peak. 1 year change 0.9%, 2 year change 0.6%, 3 year change 5.2. Look at the 5 year change, only 32%. So Columbus and cities in Ohio are up near 50% or more in home prices in the last 5 years. You've got a place like Portland, Oregon, only up 32%. And you can see they're down from the peak 5.4%, down 0.3% month over month. And the 1 year change, they're only up barely 1%. Actually, it's 0.9%. So places like Portland, I would suspect places in California are not growing as far as home prices like the Midwest and the Northeast. I think you'll see that. Now let's look at inventory. See if that tells us the tale. All right. Portland inventory. Look at that. They're they're nearing pre-pandemic levels of inventory. I mean, right now, I can't move my mouse over, but if you look down in that box and you see 2024, you could see 7,074 homes for sale in October of this year versus pre-pandemic, what? 7,900 homes. So they're only down, like they said, only down 11% in inventory, and that's going to cause home prices to not grow as fast because there's more inventory, more choices, more inventory, more supply equals, generally speaking, lower prices. That's what's happening in Portland. All right, let's do. Somebody asked for Bend, Oregon as well, so let's do Bend, Oregon. Oh, I got Albany. Bend's down here, isn't it? Where's Bend? There it is. Bend, Oregon. Down 0.6% month over month in home prices. Shift since the local peak, 5.7%. So since the peak in 2022, when they reached the last 5 years, the highest amount, they're actually down 5.7%. They were up though. Look at the 5-year change in home prices, 55%. 55. I mean, that's almost, 56 if you want to round up. So it's like their home prices went insane in the last 5 years. So they're probably coming down a little bit helps, right? But I guess the point there is if you bought in 2022, generally speaking, your home's worth less than it's worth less now than it was in 2022. All right, let's look at inventory there. Bend, Oregon, housing inventory up 3.8%. This is the first time I've seen this since we started today. 3.8% increase in active inventory compared to pre-pandemic. They actually have more inventory. So you're going to see that home price growth decelerate. And we are seeing that. You can see it in the numbers. So you've got 3.8% more houses for sale now than you did pre-pandemic. And then if you look at the actual price gain, there isn't one. It's actually down month over month. It's down from the peak and it's barely up since last year. But in Bend, you're still up 55% in the last 4 years. All right, so that's Bend, Oregon. All right, now we're going to do Charlotte, North Carolina. Somebody requested Charlotte. So let's do that. I think I knew where Charlotte was, right? There's Chapel Hill. Charlotte, North Carolina. We're down 0.4% in prices in Charlotte, month over month. Shift since the peak, 0.7%. So they're barely up in the last 2 years. I mean, think about that, right? And look at the growth. I mean, again, some of this stuff is like, you got to, It's really unbelievable. 60% growth in Charlotte in 5 years. 60% in home price growth. That's insane. So I'm going to write some of these down and see if we can find a record. All right, so I got 60% in Charlotte. So far, that's the biggest increase in 5 years. Look at the, well, I mean, 1 year change, 1.8%. 2 year change, 3.1%. 3 year change, 18%. 4 year change, 44%. But they are down month over month, and they're barely up since the peak in 2022. So now let's look at active inventory in Charlotte and see what's going on there. Charlotte inventory shift since October 2019, down 10%. So in Charlotte, you basically have 10% less homes right now for sale than you did in 2019. That's why, one of the reasons why you're not seeing, massive declines in home prices there, because you still have less inventory than you did 4 years ago. And so far, we've only seen one location, and that was Bend, Oregon, where we have more homes for sale. But we're going to keep going. I'm sure we'll find more metros. That's the key, folks. You want to look at inventory. How much inventory do you have in your market right now? What's that trend? What has that trend been? If that trend is going, down, you have less inventory, expect home prices to keep going up, or at least remain sticky. If you see more homes on the market, more supply, expect home prices to go down. Really how it works. All right, that's Charlotte. Now I've got Connecticut. Again, if you got a metro you want me to analyze, drop it in the comments below. I'm happy to do it. All right, so let's do Connecticut. Where in Connecticut should we do? Let's do Hartford, Connecticut. 0.5% down month over month. In 1 month, home prices dropped 0.5%. Shift, look at this. Shift since the peak, 17%. So you got Charlotte that was up like what, 0.7%? Now you've got Hartford up 17% since 2022. 5-year change in home prices, 58%. 5.8. Still isn't the record. Got the record at Charlotte right now. It's 60% growth in 5 years. Let's look at active inventory for sale there. Oops. Sorry. You didn't see that. My bad. I had the wrong screen up. My bad. Bear with me. All right, there we go. 58% in Connecticut. That's down 0.5% month over month, 17% since the peak in growth of home prices, but 58% in the last 5 years. Just unreal. All right, now let's look at active inventory. Active inventory in Connecticut. I'm looking for, there we go, Hartford, Connecticut. Can this even be right? Down 74% in active inventory. 74%. In other words, right now, if you live in Hartford, you have 74% less homes for sale than you did before the pandemic. You can see the numbers down below. Look at that. 2019, you had 4,836 homes on the market. Then the pandemic hits and you drop to 2,300 homes. But that's not the bottom. You go to 1,800, 1,300, all the way down. Last year, they reached a bottom of 1,100 homes for sale. Folks, in a market where you're used to, look at the numbers before the 2019. In 2016, you had 6,300 homes for sale in 2016. So imagine you've got 6,300 homes to choose from as a buyer, approximately, right? If you can buy everything on the market, I guess. And now you've got 1,200 homes. And you wonder why home prices have gone up 74%. Well, because there's nothing to buy. Supply is completely constrained. So anyone who thinks that supply doesn't matter is fooling themselves, and they're fooling you. That's what drives prices. Is inventory and supply. It just is what it is. And there's a lot of people that are wondering why home prices haven't crashed yet. They're like, "Why? Well, I don't understand. Interest rates are really high. Like, why haven't home prices crashed?" I hear venture consulting say home prices are crashing. I hear whoever, I mean, name them on YouTube. I hear this guy saying home prices are crashing, or they're going to crash in the next year. And then 2 years comes and inventory drops more, and they wonder why haven't they crashed yet? Because there's no inventory. I mean, we learned that in like third grade economics, right? All right, that's Hartford, Connecticut. Now let's do another place in Connecticut because somebody wanted Connecticut really bad, so I'm going to do it. And if you got a city you want me to analyze, drop it in the comments. Let's do. Let's see. There's all kinds of little cities here. Do New London? Oh, they're going to beat Charlotte if I do that one. Yeah, let's do New London, Connecticut. So New London, Connecticut, you've got 0.3% month over month. You notice in a trend with the month over month, most areas drop during this period of time, this period of the year, right? This time of year, they're dropping, nominally month over month, not year over year, month over month, because home price growth usually slows in the fall. It just does in the winter. So 0.3% down month over month in home prices, shift since the peak 15 or 16% since 2022. Look at the home price growth in the last 5 years. Look at that 60.5. They win. They get the trophy right now for most home price growth. New London, Connecticut. All right. I'll track that one too. Okay. Now let's look at inventory in New London and see what's going on. New London, Connecticut inventory. Similar to Hartford, no surprise, down 68% in inventory. 68%. I mean, look at that. Back in 2019, you had 1,400 homes to choose from. Now you got 446. Home prices are all, skyrocketing. No surprise. And there's nowhere to build, I'd imagine, right? In the Northeast, like in Connecticut, where are you going to put a big housing development? And by the way, the plan that I've heard from Trump is to build homes on federal land. So I would ask, where are you going to open up federal land in the Northeast so far that we've looked at today to build more houses? In the ocean? Are you going to build like an island? Is that federal land? You're going to go up into space? Are you just going to like create more land, like another Connecticut out in the ocean somewhere? I don't think so. So there's really nowhere to build there. Home prices really have no chance to fall in an area like Connecticut unless there's like a cataclysmic financial event and everyone has to sell their house. So the inventory is gone. It's really insane when you look at it. Really insane. Okay. So that's Hartford, Connecticut. Or I'm sorry, New Haven, Connecticut. All right, now let's go back to the prices and look at another metro. That's Connecticut. Now somebody wanted to see Los Angeles. Los Angeles. What's going on in La La Land? Los Angeles metro area, month over month, down 0.3%. Noticing a pattern, almost all of these metros so far are down 0.3%. Shift since the peak, 3.6%. So since they peaked in home prices back in 2022, they're up 3.6% in a couple years. 5-year change in home prices, 44.8%. 44.8. So not as much as Connecticut or even like Ohio, but certainly still a lot of growth in home prices. And when your average home price or your median home price there is probably well over $1 million, like, or near $1 million, 44% growth is a lot. That's a lot of cash, man. All right, let's find out what's going on with inventory in La La Land. It's going to move west here. Down 20%. So I have heard some folks lately on YouTube say, "Hey, California is like imploding because inventory is skyrocketing." Well, inventory is up year over year. When you look down on that box, that white box, look down at 2024, 15,621 homes for sale last month. Last year in October, Los Angeles had 11,224 homes for sale. So inventory has skyrocketed year over year, but inventory in Los Angeles is still down 20% since the pandemic. It just is, right? So home price growth, consequently, is going to continue, right? It's just going to continue. 44% in 5 years. In 1 year, 4.66%, which, by the way, is normal. Like a 4.6% growth year over year in home prices is like kind of average if you look at the last 20 years. So, the fact that it's only up 3.6% since the peak in 2022, tells me that home price growth is decelerating there. But I wouldn't look for it to crash because you still have less inventory. You're going to need a lot more inventory, and you need a lot more inventory growth in order for you to see lower home prices. All right. I got to go back east now because someone suggested Connecticut, Darien, Connecticut. Well, I don't know where that is. I don't know if they have this on that map. You have to help me out here. Darien, Connecticut. Where is that? I don't know where that is. Is it near any of these areas that I already analyzed, or help me out? Boats Crypto. Let me know exactly where it is. Darien, Connecticut. Oh, next to Greenwich. Greenwich. Okay. Let's see if I can find that. There's Norwich. Any of these? These are the only cities I have, unfortunately, for Connecticut. So is it near any of these? Let me know. Oh, Norwalk. Okay, there we go. Hope this helps. Yeah, thanks for that, Boats Crypto. Right, Norwalk. Okay, I'll do that right now. All right. Month over month change in Norwalk, Connecticut, 0.4%. So they're down a little more than the other cities we looked at in Connecticut as far as month over month, but shift since the peak, 12%. 1 year change, 5%, 2 year change, 15%, 3 year change, 26%, 4 year change, 42%, 5 year change, 52.4. Not as much as the record we have so far, which is in New London, Connecticut, at 60.5% growth in home prices, but that's still a lot and really not sustainable. And that's why you're seeing price growth decelerate, but you're still growing. I mean, nationally, Zillow has us only up 2.4%. You're up 5, right now in Norwalk or Greenwich area, you're up 5.2%. So like double what national numbers show. Let's look at inventory. I'm wondering what's going on with inventory there. All right, let me just go over here. Inventory. Wow. Down 74% in inventory since 2019. Same story as the other places in Connecticut. So you tell me, Boats Crypto, why are people what's going on there in Connecticut? Like, I'm guessing no new building. I'm guessing that's a complete guess. I'm guessing people are like, I'm not selling my house, so they're not putting it on the market. So inventory is super constrained. But like, are people moving to Connecticut from like New York or other areas or something? Tell me. I'd love to know what you're seeing on the street there because that's uh that's unreal. I don't know how home prices are ever going to stabilize if you're down 74% in inventory. I mean, imagine home prices were expensive there and going up, in 2016, uh, when you had inventory somewhat. Now you don't have any. So it's got to be rough there. 74. I'm going to write that one down too for 74% decline in inventory. I'm wondering if immigration has any impact on home prices. I don't know. I mean, you can't qualify for a loan unless you're a legal citizen, as far as I know. So they can't buy a home. Um, I'm really not sure, to be honest with you, but it can't be. I mean, there has to be another reason there. Like there has to be something going on with either people moving in to Connecticut. Maybe is it less expensive there? Are taxes less? I don't know. But I also think probably it has to do with the fact that there's no new building, like zero. To tell me, are there big housing developments like you see in like the desert in Arizona or Las Vegas where there's thousands of homes, it looks like just sprawling subdivisions? That a lot of new construction will drive down home prices, no doubt. But I'd like to know. So tell me. Huh. All right, let's do the next one here. So this is, let's see. I had somebody asked for Chicago. All right, so Chicago, Illinois, 0.3% drop in home prices month over month. Very similar pattern to everything else we're looking at. Shift since a peak up 7.8%, 1 year change 4.8%, 2 year change 10%, 3 year change 17%, 4 year change 29%, 5 year change 35%. So Chicago hasn't grown in home prices near like Connecticut has certainly, or even Ohio. They've gone up 35%, which isn't small in 5 years, but what's that? 7% on, per year. It's kind of getting closer to the average home price growth we've seen over the last 20 years. Not a lot of it's just not it hasn't exploded in home prices like it has in other areas, I guess, is what I'm saying. Let's look at active inventory and see what happened there. Active inventory in Chicago down 56%. So they are down a lot in inventory in Chicago. I mean, but home prices haven't I guess they haven't skyrocketed like they did in some other areas we're looking at. Which if you're in Chicago, I suppose that's good, but even 35% in, you know, 5 years is still a lot. I guess one of the things I'm trying to find here is a crash. You tell me, where should I look to find a crash? Again, people are like, this is crashing. This is crashing. We're doomed. Life's over. Okay, let's find it. I mean, I'm here looking at all this data. If somebody could call Travis at Real Estate Mindset and wake him up, um, and have him help me out, help me find an area that's crashing. I'd like to find one. Maybe Nick at Reventure Consulting's around, and we can have him chime in and go, "We're doomed. What area? Tell me. Let's go find it. Let's go find it." All right. Let's go back to prices. That was inventory. Let's go back to prices now. Somebody wanted me to look at Atlanta. Atlanta, big market, big housing market, down 0.7% month over month. So Atlanta is dropping 2 times what the national average is with home price, what we're seeing so far. They're only up 0.7% since the peak. 1 year change 1.1%. So year over year, home prices there have only grown 1.1%. 5-year change, 56%. So you can see, even if home prices were to drop 5% year over year in Atlanta, you're still at 51% in the last 5 years. It's going to take like cataclysmic event type event horizon, um, you know, end of the world, biblical proportion financial events to get that home price growth that you've seen over the last 5 years to be normalized. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of these metros, you may be at the normal. You may be at the normal. That 56% may never be captured from a decline standpoint, meaning if you're sitting around waiting for home prices to go back to pre-pandemic levels, you've got a long way to go. You know, you're up 56% in Atlanta. Hard to have a crash. Hard to have a crash. All right, let's look at it. Active inventory. Active inventory in Atlanta. What are we doing? They still have less inventory than they did before the pandemic. 14% less inventory in Atlanta. So again, hard to have a crash when you have less inventory. Now, they do have a lot more inventory than they did last year or in October of 2021. Look at October 2021. They had 11,000 units for sale. Now they've got 24,000 units for sale. So no doubt that inventory is growing there, but it's still way below 2019 before the pandemic. It's really amazing what happened during the pandemic. Demand just went insane. And so the problem with supply and demand is that you can't really ramp up supply as quick as demand will fall and rise, right? Look at what happened in the pandemic. Demand went up really fast. Supply hasn't done much at all. We keep building some new houses, but home builders are taking their foot off the pedal right now. You should watch The Uneducated Economist when he talks about lumber on his YouTube channel, and he'll tell you what's happening with new home builders. They're not going to build. They're turning off the faucets, and that's going to constrain supply. It just will. So it's a rough situation right now in the housing market. No, I have not done West Palm Beach. I'm happy to do it. No, you're not being repetitive at all. Throw the cities out there, man. Throw them out. I'll do them. It's a this is what I'm doing today, is just reviewing cities after, city by city, whatever you guys want. And again, I'm looking for an area that is like cataclysmic, apocalyptic crash. So thanks for the suggestion. I'll do that in a minute. All right, so that's Atlanta. You've got less inventory. You got prices up still. Yeah, that's what's happening there. All right, let me do West Palm Beach. Thanks for that. West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach. Down here, right? In the west. Pompano Beach. I don't know my Florida very well, do I? Where is it? I'm not a Florida guy. Help me out here. Ooh, it's on the beach, right? I got Miami. Oh, above Fort Lauderdale. What am I doing wrong here? Where am I? Tampa, Clearwater. Why can't I not find it? My lack of geography knowledge is coming in. Is it in one of these markets that's just covered already? Yeah, southeast. My bad. You know what? It's probably the reason I can't find it. It's probably covered in Miami. Yeah, that's it. That's why. My bad. Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. All right. Live sometimes do this. All right. So prices so the way they look at this is they use metro areas covered by the MLS in that area. So Miami has an MLS that covers Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Pompano Beach, and probably West Palm Beach as well. I'm pretty sure that's how they're doing this. So I apologize if it's not broken down exactly by West Palm Beach, but thanks for the suggestion. So month over month, down 0.4%. Shift since the peak, 8.4%. Oh, we got a new record, right? 5-year change, 63.8%. Miami. These numbers should startle you if you're just an observer of the housing market. These numbers should give you pause that home prices in Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Pompano Beach grew 63, we'll call it 64. Who's counting when you get to that level? 64% in the last 5 years. Wow. I mean, that's insane. That's insane. And so when you see a month over month change of 0.4%, as we're seeing now, that's like a fly on the rear end of a massive horse. Like, it's no big deal. It's like, who cares? 1%, so what? 5%, not a big deal. 6%, not a big deal. Even 10% wouldn't be a big deal in Miami. In other words, there's a long way to fall before you've got any type of normalization in house prices. Let's look at inventory. Now that I know where West Palm Beach is. All right. In Miami, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, still down 7.7% from 2019, down 7.7% in inventory. Now, look at the growth from 2023 to 2024 in inventory. Up a lot year over year, right? 26,000 units. Now you've got 41,000 units. So a lot more inventory. You're going to need to keep doing that to get home prices to drop. Again, I keep saying it. I'll say it again and again on this live. It feels like and seems like we are settling into normal markets, meaning if that's true, what you are seeing in home prices right now, the current price for houses could be near the new normal in some of these markets. It's not like I'm going to wait and home prices will drop to 2019 levels. They could, not saying there isn't a possibility of a crash, because there always is a possibility of the crash. Who knows what the future holds? But it would be like, it would take year after year after year of large declines to get you underneath 2019 pricing. Take a long time because there's the inventory's gone. It's still gone in Miami, even though they've had all that growth. Now, eventually they'll probably catch up, but you need a lot of new listings to do that. And new listings in the US overall are dropping right now. Like we're declining in new listings. People don't want to sell their homes. They're like, I'm not going to pay a 7% rate. I'm not going to pay this price for a new home. I'm going to stay where I am. Makes sense, right? Okay, that's Miami. Thanks. Thanks for that suggestion. I was going to do Miami anyway. That was on my list, so thank you. All right, so I've got, let's see. Let's go to Texas, shall we? I've been chomping at the bit to go to Texas. Find out what's happening in Texas. So everybody's favorite child is Austin, right? Austin's like, I mean, people hang on to Austin with their price declines like the branch on over a raging river of a tree over a raging river, right? Like, I got to hang on to this because this is the one area that's really dropping. I can talk about it all the time. All right. Month over month change down 1%. Shift since the peak down 21%. So I'm going to write that down. So peak, we got Miami right now is leading. Miami right now is leading with home price growth at 63% in the last 5 years. We've got Austin down 12%. I'm sorry, down 21% in home prices. Austin. So if you bought basically after 2022, your home theoretically is worth less now than it was in 2022. 1 year change, 3.5%. 2 year change, 12%. 3 year change down 6%, near 7%. 5 year change, though, look at that. This is my point. They're still up 40%. So again, if you go back 5 years from ago and you say, hey, in Austin, how much was that house? And they say, hey, it was 400 grand. Now it's worth 40% more, even though home prices have dropped 21% since 2022. You're still up 40%. That's my point. You're going to need cataclysmic drops to get back to pre-pandemic levels of prices. And you all need to go, if you're really waiting and praying and hoping and wishing and wanting for a crash, which could happen. I'm not saying it's not, but like you should go back to the 2008 GFC and see where home prices went over the next few years after the GFC. Because there were areas that were down substantially, but there were some areas that weren't down that much at all. I mean, it wasn't a nationwide crash. So is it possible that this time it's not a nationwide crash? A lot of people hope it is a nationwide crash, but hoping doesn't really get you anywhere. So yeah, now let's look at inventory in Austin. Inventory in Austin. Austin inventory. Where are we at? They're up 40% in inventory in Austin. That's what you need for a home price correction. 40% since 2019. You got 40% more homes for sale. And actually, it's like a what? Almost, I mean, it's not going back 10 years, but if you look at that data at the bottom of that box, 2016, there were 7,000 homes for sale. Now you've got 10,300 homes for sale. I'm guessing a lot of it's new construction. That would make sense. You almost have like a 10-year high of new of inventory. It's an 8-year high of inventory, that's for sure. So you're seeing prices drop, but they're still up 40% compared to 2019 on average in home prices. So, all right, let's do another city here. That was Austin. Houston, Texas. Month over month change, 0.6% drop month over month from September to October of 2024. A 1 year change year over year of 0.5%. Shift since the peak down 2.4. Remember, Austin was down 21%. Houston is down 2.4%. 5 year change in home prices, 37.7%, call it 38. That's still in 5 years, a 7% growth, right? If my math is right, seven times 5, right? So still a 7% growth on average year over year in the last 5 years, which is above normal. So despite everything that's been going on in Houston with all the new construction, home prices there are still 37% more expensive than they were 5 years ago. So, but you can see what happens with inventory, because I'm guessing inventory there is higher. I'm just guessing it is. Let's find out. Here's inventory. They're only down 5.5% since the pandemic. Only down 5.5% in the number of homes for sale. Conversely, you go back to Connecticut, and they were down 74% in inventory. So an area like Houston has a lot of new construction. Yeah, you're going to see home prices soften, no doubt, but they're still up 35% compared to 5 years ago, which is a pretty good amount of growth. All right, that's Houston. Do one more Texas City here. Let's do San Antonio. Month over month change 0.7% down month over month. Shifts since the peak 7.5% down. And San Antonio, this is the weakest one we've seen. 5-year change 33% in San Antonio. And year over year, they're down 2.5% in home prices. So there's an area that is dropping in home prices, no doubt. So far, I've only found one, I guess, one city. That's Austin, which is no surprise, down over 20%. That's what I consider a crash, down over 20%. Okay, so let's look at inventory in San Antonio. See what we see. San Antonio inventory up 19%. Wow. So, in an area where inventory has grown 19% versus even in Houston, you're down still in inventory. And in Connecticut, for instance, you're down 74% in the number of homes for sale. The shift between 2019 and 2024 in San Antonio with homes for sale up 20%. Again, probably a lot of new construction. Probably a lot of new construction. Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's do another one. If you got a metro, drop it in the comments below. Even if it's after and you're watching the replay, which a lot of people do, then drop it in the comments and I'll do it on the next live, which will be maybe in a few days when we do the Redfin update. As soon as they update the data. All right, let's look at I want to go to Tennessee. I wanted to go to Tennessee. Chattanooga, Dayton, Athens. I'm wanting Jackson, Memphis. Let's just do Nashville. Again, I hear a lot of people say Nashville home prices are crashing. Let's find out. Month over month, Nashville, Tennessee home prices down 0.3%. Shifts since the peak down 2.9%. 1 year change up 1.1%. So they're down month over month. Since the peak, they're actually down almost 3%. Look at the 5-year change, though, 50% basically. Well, no, if I round, it's actually 49. Who's counting, though, right? 49% growth in the last 5 years. Again, just like the other areas, going to have to see a ton of inventory, a ton of distressed selling in order to have those home prices come down to a point that makes sense for anybody. It's just it's not. I mean, a 3% drop since 2022 in home prices isn't going to do it. Not when home prices went up 50%. So it's like, man, there's going to be a band of people that get hurt, right? Because if you bought after 2022, your home is worth less. It is. But if you bought before that, your home's worth more. And if you bought 5 years ago, your home's worth 50% more on average. Nuts, right? I mean, it's shocking when you look at this data and you go city by city, and you're not just like picking out the biggest losers. You're going, oh, where are home prices growing or decreasing the most? Okay, inventory for sale in Nashville up 16% year over year. More inventory. That's what you need if you want to see home prices drop. 9,000 active housing units right now. Back in 2019, they had 7,800 active housing units. And they're back to like 2018 levels in inventory. Good. You need that type of inventory growth to drop prices. Will they drop 50% in Nashville? Oh no, that's a long way to drop. They could, not saying they won't, but going to need a lot more inventory or a lot of distress selling. And to find distress selling, you really need to look at new listings. right? You need to look at new listings. You should. Okay. So let's do another metro here. What do you think home prices will be like a year from now? Hmm, that's a great question. So um, e- I think given the interest rates, um, and the fact that people, because I don't think interest rates are going to drop that much. I think they may end up like maybe in the low sixes at the end of next year, but I don't think they're going to drop much below that. Um, so I think, and that's a great question. I think overall, you're looking at like a nominal increase nationally. And again, it's market by market. You have an area like Nashville that's has inventory growing, and you have more inventory than you did, almost in the last 10 years. You may see home prices like soften like 1%, 2%, 3% or something like that. Um, may go down. But then an area like Connecticut that we looked at, they have 74% less inventory. I would think their home prices are going to continue to go up. So it's market by market, but I think nationally, maybe 2-3% growth next year nationally, which is kind of normal. I don't think it's going to be anything amazing. And I think that trend's going to continue for a few years. I think we're just going to grind sideways, um, unless there is a large financial event, either positive or negative. So if there's like a large amount of, uh, job loss, and that translates into distress selling and more inventory, you're going to see that, but you probably won't see it for a year or so, at least a year, maybe 2 years, because it takes that long to see that type of distress. Um, but I think if for some reason, you know, the person in charge at the White House decides, I don't like this slow grind. I don't like this frozen housing market. I'm going to free it up. And they start buying more. The Fed starts buying more money backed, money backed securities, or mortgage backed securities. Um, then you may see home prices and demand go back up, and you may see prices continue to climb. Um, but I think if everything's left alone, you may just see a slow grind sideways. And that's going to disappoint a lot of people. It'll disappoint people that want to crash. And it's going to disappoint people that want home prices to go up another 10%. But I think that's what we need, is just a slow grind sideways for a while to kind of let things stabilize. Do you th- do you think the crashing of Russian ruble will have any impact on our economy? Shoot, man, I don't know. That's out of my scope, big time. um, I don't know. Yeah, you can tell me what you think, but I honestly have no idea. That's goes beyond my analysis, unfortunately. Is the Fed cooking the books? I don't know. I have no idea, obviously. I think there's a lot of people that don't want to they don't want to admit that home prices went the way they did over the last 5 years, because maybe they didn't buy 5 years ago because they were praying for a crash, and then they kind of kept calling for a crash through the last 5 years, year after year after year. And now they are realizing that home prices haven't fallen that much, and they're upset. So therefore, the only other solution is the data is manipulated. That's what I see. And by the way, like, a lot of people don't like Zillow, even though most people use it to look at home prices. Zillow's forecast for next year is only like a 2.3% growth, very, very kind of nominal. And then this year they only have us up 2.4%. So, I mean, is all this data cooked? It could be some big conspiracy, but the only thing I can do is look at my local market in Columbus, and I can tell you in Columbus, home prices are still they're still going up. They are. There's some pockets here and there where home prices are kind of stabilizing, but overall they're going up. You know, Like I do these lives every week, and I've yet to really find an area or someone tell me, "Hey, home prices are crashing in my market. Look at this data." And then I look at it and I'm like, "Wow, you're right." I think what happens, a lot of people look out their window and see a house that was on the market last year or this year and it hasn't sold yet, or it's sold under asking, and they go, "See, home prices are crashing." And it's like, yeah, if you look in that little spot, that little scope of your block, you may see a house that hasn't sold yet or has gone down in price. But when you blow it out and go, and go to a 10,000-foot view, you see that home prices aren't crashing. They're not down 20% unless you live in Austin. And that's down since that's what's that, 3 years, 2 years of decline. But it's still up. Austin, you're still up, in the last 5 years. What, it was up like 40, 50% in the last 5 years. Still with all this decline. I think that's what makes people frustrated. And I understand that because if I had waited, if I had didn't own a home or I wasn't investing in real estate before the pandemic, and now all of a sudden I started to, I'd be pretty frustrated. So I get that. I completely get it. Currencies of lesser financially secure countries crashing could be an indicator of risk off. Typically, when the economy goes bad, money pours into save their currencies like the US dollar. Okay. So yeah, I see what you're saying. And obviously, I think that moving forward, people may be more cautious about the housing market. I can tell you, and by the way, thanks for the comment. What else did you say, Isaac? So you'll see India, Russia, China, Japan, those currencies taking in those dive if we're in risk off condition. You mean nosedive? Those dive. Oh, taking in. I don't know what you're saying there exactly. Except I understand what you're saying. That it's risk off. Um, because of these currencies. Is that what you're saying? I'm struggling on that one. But I get your point. Overall, is that if risk off happens, people will not invest as much in the housing market, I suppose. But I think the problem is, Isaac, is that you saw home prices grow 50%, you know, in 5 years. So to make that to go down that much, even if people back off from the market, which like I said, I was gonna say in my area, I'm seeing buyers back off. I am. I'm seeing buyers be more cautious. Homes are sitting longer. It's kind of feeling like a normal market. So it's like if it normalizes right now, then you're still up 50% in 5 years. It's like that, that gap up in the stock market. When you see that candle gap up and then it continues higher, maybe sideways, but then drops to a 21-day moving average, but then goes back up. It's like you're not going to recover that increase. I hope that makes sense. That's what I'm seeing anyway. A lot of people don't want to think that this is the new normal, but it could be in prices. I mean, some of these areas, I don't see how homes can go down when there's no inventory. But thanks for the comment. All right. So that was Nashville. If you have another metro, let me know. Let's do another one here. Who else is on my list that somebody asked for? Oh, yeah. I'll do now. I will do let's do some other East Coast cities. I've kind of gone out west. Let's do somebody asked for Detroit a couple days ago. Let's do Detroit. Oh boy. Detroit down 0.4% month over month, shifts since the peak 5.7%, up since 2022. 5-year change 39%. So that's not, it's not, what did we see in Miami? 63%. That's the record I've got. I call it 64 because it's 63.8. 64% in Miami. That's the record I've seen today as home price growth over the last 5 years. Detroit, 39%, not near as much. Not near as much. Let's look at inventory in Detroit. Detroit. Look at that. Down 43%, 44%, call it, in inventory since 2019. They've got 44% less homes for sale. I mean, again, it's hard to have a housing market crash price wise when you got less inventory. I mean, wow. Look at 2016 in inventory. You had 14,000 or 15,000 homes for sale. Now you've got 8,900 homes for sale. A massive decline. Massive decline. It just is what it is. All right, let's do the next city. Oops. Let's do Myrtle Beach. Somebody asked me for Myrtle Beach. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. North Carolina, South Carolina. I guess they cover both Conway, North Carolina, Conway North, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, North Carolina. I don't know how I guess it's because that metro covers the southern part of North Carolina, I suppose. Um, month over month change down 0.4%. Most of these metros are down month over month, but that's normal for this time of year. It is. If you go back historically and look, you're seeing drops every fall, winter in home prices month over month. Shifts since the peak, they're dead even. Year over year, they're down 0.4%. So people look at that and go, see, prices are dropping there. And they are year over year. You can see the home price growth decelerate over the last 4 or 5 years. The 5-year change in home prices, 56%. So in Myrtle Beach, if you bought a home 5 years ago, on average, your home's now worth 56% more than it was when you bought it. I mean, that's it's a lot. Again, it's a lot to make up for. It's a lot. It's just like when you're down and you need to grow, you got to grow a lot to catch up, right? Well, now that you're up, you got to drop a lot to normalize the market or to have a housing market correction, I suppose. Maybe this is what the housing market correction looks like. Even for a couple of years. Like I said, grind sideways. Just a grind. Nothing insane up or down. And even if it goes down somewhat, you're still up 56% in the last 5 years. That's not a sustainable housing market. All right, and let's look at inventory in Myrtle Beach. Find out what's happening. Myrtle Beach. Oh. Down, let's see, up 4.7% in inventory. So they actually have more inventory in Myrtle Beach. Not a ton more. And look at that. They were down to 2,300 units at one point, now up to 7,000. Man, it's amazing the inventory changes in some of these markets. So up only 4%. Okay, 5%, let's call it. So that's what's happening in Myrtle Beach. Let's do New York. New York City. Time for New York. 5-year change, 35%. One of the smaller changes in the last 5 years. But look, this is really interesting. Look at the month over month change is not negative. It's actually positive in New York, 0.1% up. Shift since the peak, 9.2% up. 1-year change, 7%. Home prices in New York have gone up 7% in 1 year. And look at the 2, 3, 4, and 5-year. They're not, the 5-year isn't like some of these other areas that have gone up, 60, 70%, but they haven't dropped at all either. No drops at all in the last 4 or 5 years in New York. What's happening with inventory in New York City? Let's see. 46%, call it 47% less inventory in New York City. I mean, back in 2016, New York City had 66,000 units for sale. Now they've got 35,000 units for sale. You're gonna need a lot more selling to get inventory to hit the market and get prices to stabilize. Just gonna have to have like distressed selling left and right, of like biblical proportions, probably. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let's see. Let's do another city. Name a city. Where should I go? Where should I go? Where should I go? See, somebody asked for Boston. Let's do Boston. I love Boston. Boston's an awesome city. All right, 42% growth in home prices over the last 5 years. Month over month change, 0.5%. So they're down half a point in month over month from September to October of 2024. Shift since the peak, 7.4%. So since 2022, they're up 7.4%. They year over year, they're up 4.8%. 5-year change, 42.7. Kind of the same story. They have as New York. Let's find out what inventory has done in Boston. They're still down 40% in inventory in Boston. I mean, it's kind of safe to say if you live in the Northeast, on these cities we've looked at in the Northeast, and you want to buy a home and you're thinking, I'm going to wait to buy a home, that is just continuing to cost you, even with the interest rates the way they are, probably. Like, it doesn't seem like there's any hope of home prices stabilizing in the Northeast. Not when you've got an inventory situation like this, and there's nowhere to build, I'd imagine. Right? It's not like you can just build a 400 unit housing development in the middle of Boston or in the middle of Massachusetts or in the middle of New York, right? Or Connecticut. So I don't know. It's a dire situation. There's no doubt. When it comes to housing there, there's just, it's, the prices don't seem like they're going to move at all. I mean, even if, yeah, it's just, it's bad. You have to have a lot more inventory in Boston to make prices change. It's rough. That's rough. Okay, let's go back to the map here. Share tab instead. Let's do, we did Boston. Let me do, where else we got? Let's do San Francisco. San Francisco. They also incorporate Oakland and Berkeley as well. Month over month change down 6.6%. So they're down double what we're seeing from most other metros as far as month over month change in home prices. Shift since the peak down 10%. So they're actually down 10% in San Fran since when they peaked in 2022. Year over year change 1.4, but they're up 1.4 in the last year. 5-year change, this is one of the lower 5-year changes, only 21% in San Francisco. Maybe because home prices were already insane there. Maybe because people were leaving San Francisco. I don't know. But the 5-year change, 21%, call it 22% growth. That's one of the lower ones in home price growth, certainly. Let's find out what happened with inventory in San Fran. They're actually even almost with inventory in the last 5 years. 1.2% more inventory than they had this time before the pandemic. So now you're seeing home prices they've kind of been soft. Inventory growing, softer home prices. So if you're in a market where you're wondering when are home prices going to drop, you got to watch inventory. I do a live every week where I review inventory in depth in many metros and definitely nationally. And I give you a chance to chime in and ask me about your metro. But yeah, you can do it too. You can go to, there's a lot of free data providers, Zillow, Redfin. You get with a realtor and ask them to pull inventory data for you, for your local housing market. And the more local, the better. So down to like your subdivision, your school district, that helps a lot. But yeah, like More inventory equals lower prices. Just how it is. That's just how it is. Okay, let's do um that was I got to do Las Vegas. Las Vegas, month over month change in Vegas, 0.1% down, shift since the peak down 2.3%. 1 year change, 5.5. 5 year change, 47.5%. Wash, rinse, and repeat. A lot of these metros are very similar in the fact that the 5 year change in home prices was insanely high, right? 47.5%. Like, again, very hard to have a crash and come back from that. It's going to take, it may take years of just grind downwards for that to happen. But you're up year over year, 5.5%. So it's not coming down in Vegas. It's just not. It's going back up, actually. So, all right, active inventory. Let's see what's going on in Vegas. Down 17% in active inventory compared to before the pandemic in Vegas. Less homes for sale. In fact, this is a weird one. They actually peaked. Look at this, folks. They peaked in 2022. Not, a lot of these areas peaked in inventory before the pandemic, like in 2018, 2019. But Vegas actually peaked in 2022 at 11,000 units. Now they have 7,700. Now, keep that in mind, and then look at the 1 month. Let's look at the change in prices. See that? Since the peak in 2022, they're down 2.3% when inventory peaked. So inventory went up in Vegas, prices went down. Inventory went down, prices are going up again. That's just how it is. That's how it is. And again, a lot of people, like, the narrative I hear online a lot is we can't sustain these home prices because wages haven't caught up. Okay, that's their opinion, but it all comes down to inventory. So if you can't sustain the prices because of wages, because the price to earnings ratio is too out of whack. I'm not disputing it's out of whack, but you've got to see the folks that can't afford to pay for their house anymore. You've got to see those homes hit the market. We're not seeing that. We're just not. And so until until inventory hits the market, prices aren't going to do anything. You can't have prices come down if nobody's buying and selling. And that's what we're seeing right now. Very slow amount of buying and selling. Go back to 2008 and look at through like 2012, look at the inventory levels. Look at the new listings that hit the market. Like double, triple, quadruple what we're seeing now. If we see that type of new listing activity, that would be a cause of a price decline or crash. Definitely. We're just not seeing it yet. Okay. I had somebody request one. What's up, Dan? Oh, I'm in the Dayton Springfield area and things really seem to be slowing down here. What's up, Dan? Fellow Ohioan. Welcome to the Housing Nerd. Thanks for watching. Yeah, let me look at Dayton. I think I've got that one. Let's see. Dayton. It's probably, is it? Well, that's Wilmington. Oops, sorry. Springfield. I've got Springfield. I got Bell Fountain, Sydney, Greenville. I've got Cincy. Let me do Springfield because that's kind of like where you are. Dayton, Springfield area. Month over month change in Springfield, 0.1% growth year over year. Shift since the 2022 peak, 13.7. Ohio is different. Like a lot of areas peaked in 2022. In Ohio, it actually is still going up. So like the peak in Columbus is actually in 2024. Yeah, it's still going up. So when you look at the number, when you look at the growth or the home price since the peak, uh, Springfield, which is like the Springfield Dayton area, is up nearly 14% since 2022. Look at the 5-year change, 60.6%. 60.6. 60.6%. Unreal home price growth in Dayton and Springfield. I mean, you got to remember median home price in Springfield, Dayton, Ohio in general is probably like overall, the median is probably in the high 200,000 range. I know Cincinnati, it's like high 200,000. Columbus is like 354. So when you go up 60% in home prices, it's not like it's out west where homes are 800 or $1 million, but a 60% growth in home prices certainly destroys local viability when it comes to buying their first home. I mean, I'm a realtor. I help people buy homes, and it's daunting for people because they're entering the market after we've had a huge spike in prices, and Ohio keeps running. It keeps going. It just does. I know there's a lot of investors in Dayton and Springfield. I know there are. I've looked at a lot of homes in Springfield. Haven't found anything I want to buy, but yeah. And you're saying things seem really slow. Are you saying because of like people aren't selling and buying? Dan, is that what you're saying? I'd imagine that's what you're saying. And that's the way it is here, like in Columbus, where I am, or near Columbus. It's people are just not really listing. There are some buyers, there are some listings, but it's not like a frenzy like it was a couple years ago. Anyway, that's what's happening with Springfield with prices. Let's look at inventory. Inventory in Springfield, Ohio. Down only 12.6%. Huh, that's surprising. I thought there would be a lot less inventory. You're only down 13% in inventory. Maybe because there's only 271 houses for sale. Maybe that's why there's not a massive, not a massive decline in prices, but prices keep going up. So less homes for sale, not a ton less, but there are less homes for sale in Springfield. Hmm, interesting. Okay. More demand there, I guess. Maybe because it's less expensive. I don't know. All right, let's go back. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for that. If you got a metro you want me to analyze, drop it in the comments. I'm happy to look at it, even if it's on the replay. All right, let's look at we looked at Dayton. I wanted to look at Arizona. Everybody always requests Arizona. That's Utah, Jason. Phoenix, Arizona, down 0.4% month over month. Shift since the peak, down 8.3%. 1-year change, flat. 2-year change, down 2.3. So they've been dropping. Like, look at that. They had 2.3, then flat. Now month over month, down 0.4. 5-year change, up 55%. You can look at that deceleration though. Look at that. Look at the deceleration in home prices from 5, 4, 3, and 2, and even 1. Well, they actually went up slightly. So I guess from 5, 4, and 3 years back, home prices growth, the home price growth decelerated versus accelerated, right? Okay, let's see what happened with inventory there. Phoenix, up 20% in inventory. So they're building inventory because they bottomed in 2021. Look at that. They bottomed at 6,400 units for sale. Okay. Now let's go back to the price and see what happened. That was in 2021, right? See, that would have been 3, right? Yeah, you can see when they bottomed, prices were accelerating, but then it looks like they grew in inventory. Yeah, they went up from, look at that, from 6,400 units to 17,000 units. I'm guessing a lot of that was new construction. That's a guess. A lot of builders probably were building like crazy during the pandemic because demand was off the hook. Then they were like, man, we got to take our foot off the gas because interest rates are going up and demand's probably softening. So they took their foot off the gas, stopped building, but that inventory hit the market in 2022, caused prices to go down. So it's inventory, 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 supply and demand, supply and demand. It's boring in a way. A lot of people want to like bring in other cataclysmic events or other things into the housing market and say, what about price to earnings ratio? What about credit card debt? What about student loans? But at the end of the day, all of that trickles, all that pain, all that distress from a household level trickles all the way down. And you just think about it, it trickles down to a listing. It trickles down to somebody selling their house, to somebody having a conversation with their spouse or their family or themselves, whatever, and going, I can't afford this house anymore. I got to sell it. Just got to sell it. That's a listing that hits the market. That's inventory. So, not saying there's not pain in the US economy. I'm saying that that pain will show itself for real when that inventory hits the market. Until the inventory hits the market and causes prices to soften, you're not going to see these declines. I mean, it's been shown today, year or time and time again as we're doing this. But we'll keep going. All right, month over month prices. Let's do, where should I travel to next? I've got that whistle from Legend of Zelda. I can just blow it and go woo and spin to another area. That shows how old I am. All right, let's do Denver. Denver. Down 0.6% in home prices. Shift since the peak, down 6.9%. 1 year change, 0.3. 2 year change, down 0.3. 3 year change, 7.2. 4 year change, 25%. 5 year change, 34.8. So not as much growth over the last 5 years, barely 7% growth year over year, which isn't bad, by the way. It's not awful growth, but it's definitely down since 2022. It's definitely down, and it's down month over month. It's barely up year over year. Let's look at active inventory. Denver inventory up 24%. And if you look at that box, you can see that there's more inventory right now in Denver than there has been in the last 8 years. So, like somebody asked me, "Hey, what do you think is going to happen to the housing market next year?" Well, if I'm in Denver and I see that there's 24% more homes for sale than there has been in 8 years, I wouldn't expect an amazing amount of growth. Hence, if I was an investor there and I wanted to flip a home, I would be super cautious about my ARV. Super cautious. Like, if you think, man, I can probably get 300 grand for this house, I'm going to flip. I would say maybe you build your numbers at 280, right? Because you're not sure what's going to happen with home prices because you have a lot of competition. So that's how I would look at that. If you're wondering about your local market, is, hey, should I wait to buy a home? Like, if you're ready to buy a home, financially, you're okay. You want to purchase one. You made that decision. You know where you want to buy. You've got your emergency fund together and all that. And you're in an area where inventory's building. I would be like, every offer would be well under asking. Every offer. As long as the inventory is building where you're looking to buy. Like, if you're looking to buy in an area where inventory is still tight inside of a metro where inventory overall is building, like there's areas in Denver, I guarantee it, where inventory is still tight, really high desirable areas, probably lower price points. Then you may have to be more realistic. But if there's more inventory on the market, make a lower offer. Like, you want to make an offer where somebody gets the offer and the seller gets the offer and looks at it and goes, "Oh, man, that's low." That's, to me, that's what you want to do in a market where there is a lot of inventory. If there's very few number of houses for sale, then I would say maybe that you can still do that. There's no law against it. They're not going to saw your arms off for making a low offer, but the chances of getting accepted are very slim. That's all. If there's not a lot of competition on the homes, as far as sellers listing their homes. So that's how I look at that. All right, so that's Denver. Denver has more inventory. That's a market that could have pain. Could have pain. All right, let's go to, let me zoom out here on this map because this is pretty sweet. This will tell me where, so now I'm just looking at inventory. I'm not doing price yet. I'm going to go reverse this time. Brown is where inventory is still low. Green is where inventory is a lot higher. So Colorado Springs, for instance, Colorado Springs has, look at that, 54% more inventory than they did in 2019. Wow. Wow. I'm going to write that one down. 54% in Colorado Springs. %. Again, massive amount of inventory compared to 2019. So there, I'd love to talk to an agent or somebody buying who lives in, or somebody who lives in Colorado Springs. There, I'd be like, man, whatever, if the house is listed at 400 grand and there's a lot of competition on that house, my offer may be in the, man, it could be in the low threes. It could be. Make a disrespectful offer if you've got a lot of houses out there for sale. Look at what's sold in your subdivision. Look at the price per square foot of where you want to buy. Look at what's on the market that hasn't moved, right? Homes that have been sitting like 60 days, 100 days. Look at those homes. Look at the fact that they haven't sold at the price per square foot yet. Then go in and say, all right, well, if you really want to sell, here's the price. And you'll find out who needs to sell versus who wants to sell. That's the key. Wanting to sell is like not really, that's not a distressed sale. Needs to sell is different. That's where you'll get your discount. Wow. That's crazy. Now let's look at prices in Colorado Springs. Having said that, I kind of put my myself out there. Let's look at what home prices are doing. Yeah, look at that. They're down since the peak 6.4%. Year over year up 0.6, but month over month down 0.5. That's probably seasonality. Home prices are definitely not accelerating there. And they're only up 38.1% in the last 5 years. That's 7%, or I'm sorry, about 7% a year, approximately. Amazing how these markets just function differently. Probably a lot of new construction there. That's a guess. I'd imagine there's a lot of space to build new homes. So that's what you're seeing. Let's go to inventory again. See what we see. Oh, I got somebody in Austin. Sweet. All right, Brian, tell me what's up in Austin. Like our home prices, I think they had they're down 21% since the peak. Is that right? Let me go back here and look at this. Let me look at Austin and see what's going on there. Okay. Yeah. Since the peak in Austin, you're down 21%. So I'd like to know, do you have friends? Do you, in the area that have bought houses or sold houses? What did they experience? Did they see, are they getting less for their home? Are you seeing people get deals like, hey, I don't know, maybe you're a home buyer, a home investor, whatever. Maybe you're an agent. I have no idea. But I'd just like to know a little bit more. Like, are you seeing prices drop a lot? Are you seeing them go up still? Because it looks like they are still dropping in Austin, right? You're down 3.5% year over year. Oops, that's year over year. Hang on. Sorry, Brian. Let me look at this month over month thing. Yeah, there we go. You're down 1% month over month, down 21% since the peak, down 3.5% since last year. down 12% in 2 years, down 7% in 3 years. You're still up though 40% in the last 5 years. So anyway, let me know. I'd like to know what's happening, like what you're seeing in Austin. But it looks like home prices are still softening there. And I think inventory there is still suffering. Not suffering, I think it's going up, sorry. Yeah, look at the inventory in Austin is up 40%. A lot more homes for sale than more than you've had, a lot more than you've had over the last 8 years. Maybe a lot of new construction. Let us know what's happening. All right, let's look around for another area with um, a lot of inventory growth. I'm guessing. Okay, let's do New Orleans. New Orleans up 15% in inventory. Man, it seems like that area always drops first when there's a housing correction. All right, that's New Orleans. Let's do prices. Month over month, New Orleans down 0.1%. Most areas are down month over month because of the seasonality right now. But shift since the peak down 14%. Year over year down 3.2. 2 years down 11. 3 years down 10. 4 years down 2. This one is a completely, this is like an outlier, right? 5-year change, 4.7%. That's it. So one could say there that waiting to buy a home gives you a better deal. Waiting to buy a home there in New Orleans looks like you probably find a better deal. Now, I can't guarantee that, but it's looks like home prices are barely up in the last 5 years, and they may continue to drop. They may get to a point where it actually home prices are lower than they were 5 years ago in New Orleans. So that's a record low as far as 5-year change. I'm gonna write that one down. 5%. That's it. Okay. Only 5%. All right, let's go back to the inventory and see. Pick another one here that's green. Green is bad in this situation. That means, well, depends on what side of the fence you're on, I guess. Green is bad from a standpoint you have more inventory, less home price growth. Good if you're looking for a home. Look at this one. Who's this? Huntsville, Alabama. What? 85%? We have a record 85% more homes for sale in Huntsville, Alabama than there was back in 2019. Wow. So that's definitely going to, I would think, change prices. 85% inventory. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. Let's look at the price shift. YouTube will probably flag me because they think I say something else instead of shift constantly. Where were we? Oh, we're Huntsville. Huntsville, Alabama, down 0.2% month over month. Shift since the peak, 1.7%. 1 year change down 0.4. But look at that. Like, they're still up 52.7% in home prices in Huntsville, Alabama. 52%, 53%. Who's counting when you get to 50s, right? Again, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to see a huge drop in Huntsville to have any type of price normalization over the last 5 years. So if anything, if you get anything out of this video today, I hope that you figure out that you have to look at that inventory in your market. You have to. And you got to look at what's been going on with inventory levels and look at your price changes over the last 5 years, and you'll be able to spot a trend to say, all right, will home prices all of a sudden drop because I'm out looking for one? No. Will they go up? Maybe. Well, they can even go down. It just really depends on the inventory. But it's not like it doesn't move. It's like the Titanic. It takes a long time to move and turn and all that stuff. So you got to have more distress selling. You got to have more new listings. You got to have more active listings sitting on the market collecting dust. And all of that will snowball into lower prices because people will go out to look for a home and say, well, there's 10 houses to choose from in that subdivision. They all look the same. They all have the same floor plan. They all have the same square footage. They all have the same amenities, basically. And they all are available for sale. They're all competing with each other. That translates into lower prices because you can make a lower offer. If there's only one house in that subdivision for sale, the chances of making a low offer and having accepted, slim. All right, let's look again, active housing units. I'm going to go back to the Northeast. I'm sorry, Northwest, Seattle. Okay, inventory in Seattle down 7.2% in the last 5 years. So inventory in Seattle is actually still down, but not down by a ton, like we saw in Hartford. Or was it Hartford or Norwalk, Connecticut? Inventory is down 74%, which is nuts to think about. But in Seattle, it's only down 7% in the last 5 years. Okay, now let's do 1 month. Let's do prices now. Down 0.3% in prices month over month. Shift since the peak 4.9% down. 1 year change, though, they're up 4.5%. And in the last 5 years, up 45%. And see, that's causing people to, when you see those 5-year changes at 40, 50, 60% in home prices, that's causing people not to sell their home now because they're like, well, I bought one maybe 7 years ago. Now it's worth 45% more. Problem is, the house I want to buy is also 45% more. And you add those together, or you add that into the interest rates the way they are now, and you're suffering. You're like, man, I'm not going to sell. There's just no reason to. Okay, I've gone for an hour and 47 minutes. I don't have any cities left on my list that people wanted to see. I don't think I have any more. Let me look at the list again. Nope, I think I've done them all. Anyway, if you're watching this and you want to see a city analyzed, drop it in the comments, even on the replay. I'll do it on the next Redfin Live. Or the next live I do with home price analysis will probably be the Redfin Live here in the next couple days as soon as they publish their data. I doubt they'll publish it today or tomorrow because of the holiday, but who knows? So whenever they do, I'll jump on that. And yeah, I hope this helped. I hope this was valuable. If you watch this and you try to understand what's happening with home prices, let me show you one more thing real quick, though. This may, let me do this. So this, my friends, I didn't show live throughout the whole thing because it's just a lot of spreadsheet data. But this is really the data behind that map is what you're looking at. Let me change this. Oops. I love that when I leave those comments up. Let me see. Let me just make this smaller. You don't want to see me anyway. Okay. Okay. So this is this is from Lance Lambert as well at Resiclub Analytics. If you're a premium member, you can download this, and it's got data that, again, no one else has. So this shows us not only active listings, but it also shows us new listings. So this is what I want you to pay attention to. Look at new listings in the US. Number of homes hitting the market. If you look back 5 years, we have right now in October, well, not right now, I guess last month, compare 2019 to 2024, we're down 14% in new listings. We're down 19% in 4 years, down 15% in 3 years. 2-year change up 1.5%, 1-year change almost 5%. Uh-oh. Look at the month over month. Month over month. So we're only up, and this is what this means, and this is really important. We're only up 5% in new listings since, if you compare this year to last year, only 5% more homes hitting the market. We just looked at inventory. So in an area like Connecticut, where you have 74 less homes for sale than you did 5 years ago, in an area like Columbus, where you've got what, 27% less homes for sale, a 5% change in new listings is not going to do it. It's just not going to. We need to see this number at like 20, 30, 40% more new listings. If you see that, that means a lot of people are listing their house quickly. That will add, that will translate into distressed selling, and it will translate into lower prices. 1 month change, just month over month, we had 8.52 less new listings hit the market than we did in September. When you look at September to October of this year. So it's not like more people as the, as the year goes on are selling their home. Less people are selling their home. Less listings, not more, less. This is from realtor.com data, by the way. So it's just one of those things where people want a housing market crash. I get that. They want lower prices, but you're going to have to see a lot of new listings hit the market for that to happen. You just are. So that data I thought was pretty telling. And maybe I'll go through that more again on the next live. So anyway, all right. Well, I was going to go for 2 hours. I'm almost there, but I'm exhausted. So anyway, thanks for all the attention. Thanks for the suggestions on the markets. Again, encourage you to join me on these lives. I do them almost every day on updates of the housing market, but I do these deep dives every week at least. And I'm the housing nerd. I love this info. I love diving into these data sets, and hope it helps you be a better buyer, seller, investor, realtor in real estate. Right? That's what this is all about, helping you guys understand what's happening. Like, subscribe, comment, share my channel, and we will see you on the next housing market update from the housing nerd. Have a good holiday. I'm out.